The NBA offseason means it's time for H2DG's exclusive segment, You Had to Be There. When the NBA season ends and there's little NBA to talk about, this is the perfect time to throw it back and give flowers to some of our NBA favorites of the past. Whether they are widely considered all-time greats or hidden gems, none of that matters here. There are legends, yes, but there are also legends in our hearts, and this segment makes room for both. And I believe that we all have that one player we reminisce over and just say, man, you had to be there. You had to be present to watch them play and execute their gifts on a nightly basis to fully grasp and appreciate their skill and talent. And in today's edition, I'm excited to be joined by 19 Media Group teammate, beloved Knicks fan slash Warriors fan, fellow solo podcaster, fellow Instagram freestyler, co-host of Hidden Gems Football, and of course, the host and creator of the Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph. Finally, bringing the perfect pinch of flavor to Hip to the Games is Mike Steph, as he takes us on a time travel journey to learn more about and give flowers to a player who he enjoyed watching from his high school years. And by the end of this episode, we hope that to just get the overall point across that you just had to be there to witness the way that this player impacted the game. Mike Steph, welcome to your H2DG debut, man.
Hey, what's going on, brother? How's everything? How's everything?
Everything is good, man. Everything is good. I'm excited to do this with you.
I'm very excited. I'm very honored, as I said in the pre-production, for you to even reach out and ask me to be on this platform. I really dig everything. I respect everything that you do, especially more as a person. As I said in previous conversations, that I believe that you're such an old soul, for such a young man, and everything that you put out that I intake speaks to me on multiple levels. So once again, I'm truly honored for you to ask me to be on this platform, and I plan on doing it justice. I plan on doing it justice.
I know
I'm not
you
even gonna
will.
say hope. I said I plan.
I got you. I got you. Welcome to Hip to the Games, the podcast for you, the basketball junkie and the hip hop head. I'm your host, Desmond, and I too have had hoop dreams and enjoy the beautiful genre of hip hop and its history. Together, we will enjoy some of the greatest albums, songs, artists, players, moments, teams, and so much more, while even mixing the two on occasion, all in my hope that you remember why you love both or either of these to begin with. You'll soon understand that Hip to the Games is more than just a podcast, it's a lifestyle. And if you were looking for a platform that combines both basketball and hip hop, you've come to the right place. All right, Mike. First things first, if you couldn't tell by that intro, this is pretty overdue for me. I'm finally excited to have you here. And when I knew, like I said, like you said, we were talking before the show, and I'm like, the off season's here. It's time for me to start ramping up these You Had to Be Theirs. And I'm like, and I gotta give Mike Steph. I know he's got some stories. I know he's got somebody that's gonna, shake the table a little bit. So, wasting no time, actually, Mike Steph. Who is that player that you look back on and just say, man, you had to be there?
I was telling you in the pregame, in the pre-show, I had to juggle between two options. I had my first option that I was thinking of was Chris Mullen, um, from
Great name
St.
drop.
John's. And that's kind of how I started my affection for Golden State, because he got drafted out of St. John's to go to Golden State. But then I was thinking, I was like, listen, I'm a New Yorker, born and raised in Brooklyn. Um, I bleed blue, orange during the summer, green in the winter. So how would it look like if I went for Chris Mullin? So no, I'm not going to Chris Mullin. I'm going to someone that Chicago fans,
Uh-oh.
Chicagoans probably hate,
Uh-oh.
and that would be none other than John Starks.
Ooh, Mr. Starks. And there's there's already some hip hop ties there. I'm thinking of I got a story to tell instantly.
Listen, perfect, perfect, triple ridiculous.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, okay. So before we get into his career summary, all right. And like you said, again, I knew when you said Chicago, I had to brace myself a little bit because I know, even if I wasn't around at that time, I know some people, who were, and they might feel some type of way about that. They might not. So of course, fitting perfectly for this kind of episode. By the end, hopefully, we can ease off some of that stress or some of that, animosity for my Chicago fans watching. But before we get into his career summary, I just need the origin story, man. Like, where were you in life when you first got wind of John Starks?
Okay. I want to say early 90s. So I believe he started with the Knicks about 90, 91. That was pretty much the prime years of my high school years. And this was around the time that the Knicks just had received the blessing at the time of getting Pat Riley as a coach.
Hmm.
And Pat Riley, fresh off the Showtime Lakers, everybody thought he was going to come and do the run and gun with the Knicks. And he was like, no, 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 that doesn't fit the New York mentality. New York mentality is blue collar. New York mentality is rough and tumble.
Hmm.
And we got to build this team around Patrick Ewing. So we had Patrick Ewing. We had Charles Oakley for one season. We had Xavier McDaniel, who put some fear in none other than Scottie Pippen back in the day. So they had to make sure they got Xavier Daniel out the paint. And then you had John Starks. John Starks, to me, he exemplified what it meant to really build yourself, started from the bottom, so to speak.
Hmm.
He was what I believe the story was. He was a bagpacker back in Oklahoma City. He went into the CBA or what have you,
Yeah,
and
I
he
was gonna
pretty
mention
much
that.
yeah, and he pretty much pulled himself by the bootstraps and got to the league. And when he got to the Knicks, he was pretty much just like a 3-and-D player for the most part.
Hmm.
They had him in there for his defense. And then he just kind of started taking off because I started looking at his stats, and maybe I'm trying not to veer off too much, but I started looking at his stats just try to refresh my memory, and it wasn't like he was like a prolific scorer. I believe his career average was like 12 points a game.
Yeah.
His
Yep.
his best year was like 19.2. So in that realm, you would think John, but he was one of the he was kind of the identity besides Patrick Ewing to the Knicks. So when we was
Hmm.
going through our playoff wars with the Chicago Bulls every year and the Indiana Pacers
Pacers.
every
Uh
year
huh.
and the wars between that he had with Reggie Miller. I remember the headbutt incident where he headbutted Reggie Miller, and I think he got ejected. I think he got ejected for that game. I don't think he got suspended. This is showing you how it was in the 90s. A headbutt would get you like 3 games now. Back then, all right, just get out the paint.
Right.
So that was around the time that I lived and died every April and May when it came to Knicks playoff basketball because every year we was in the second round. Did we get to the conference finals a couple times? Yeah, but it was a constant. We wasn't one and done. And every team that came came into MSG knew they was in the battle. So yes, John Starks, he just like I said, he just exemplified, and he was somebody that I can kind of mimic on the basketball court myself.
That's always a very important element when you coming up. I respect that. I respect that.
Because I'm not going to say I wasn't the nicest player, but I wanted to play D. I love playing defense because I figured that was my way to keep on getting picked. If everybody knew I was a tenacious defensive player, then they wouldn't mind, let's say, my shortcomings offensively or whatever.
Right.
Plus, I liked shooting from deep, even though you really not going 3-pointers back in the 90s, playing pickup basketball. But my thing was I need the space to get my shot off.
Uh
And
huh.
John Starks playing D, shooting the three. I loved everything about him. I loved everything about him. Plus, I wasn't that tall. So, of course, once again, I could replicate his game. I didn't replicate his haircut, but I replicated his game.
That's what's up. That's what's up. I have my stories too of guys that, for example, again, I know he gets a lot of flack today, but like that's one of the reasons why I'm a huge Paul George fan, because when I was in high school, that was when he was blowing up. And I'm like, that's a skinny dude that can play defense. Like, again, Mike, like coming from the 90s into like the 2000s and then the 2010s, like it was still like, yo, you had to be in the weight room if you wanted to be a physical defender, if you wanted those all NBA or all defensive teams. Like not a lot of skinny guys were out there, but for him to be a skinny dude, and I'm like, when you see yourself in somebody, it's like, okay, I may not be able to dunk, but like I can do that. I can do that. If he's doing it, I can do that. So it's dope that you said that about John Starks. Now, and there were a few other things I wanted to explore with what you said, because first off, you mentioned how Pat Riley came from those run and gun Lakers teams to this slower, grittier Knicks team. And I think, isn't that I actually talked about that with my same episode with Dylan Dreyfus of Forgotten Seasons. Like it's just funny how the Western Conference has been known for their up tempo play, and then you go east and everything is slower. Everything, the possessions are tighter, and it seems like every possession means a little bit more. No diss to the Western Conference, but it just seems like when you go out east, every possession means a little bit more. And then it's like you think about John Starks. I feel like his story is a perfect representation of like that New York, like you said, blue collar kind of area. Like he truly got it out the mud. Like he wasn't a draft pick. He had to fight his way to get there. And then, like you said, all of a sudden it kind of seemed like he came out of nowhere. Do you really see those parallels too, with just simply the fact the way he got to the NBA just already fit a team like the New York Knicks?
Yeah, because at that time, to me, we was kind of a ragtag bunch. We had our center, literally the center of the team was Patrick Ewing, and
Mm-hmm.
everything else seemed like there was always parts going in and going out. This is after the era when we had both Mark Jackson and Rod Strickland running the point. Okay, by this time I'm talking about Doc Rivers before he had his knee injury and put him out. We talking about this same era we had Charlie Ward who was at the time said to be the best quarterback in New York, yet he was running point guard for the New York Knicks. And then we had Derek Harper, who we had got in a great trade after Doc Rivers went down, and we got him from the Dallas Mavericks
Mm-hmm.
during that championship run. Well, our failed championship run, and Derek Harper was another one that to me kind of to me changed his style when he got to New York. Like when he was in Dallas, everybody knew Derek Harper was a bad man. This is the 90s. So it wasn't like I was watching Dallas Mavericks on TV the whole time. I was like, all right, well, we got Derek Harper, as long as he could just pass the rock. But little known fact, in the 94 finals, if John Starks doesn't have that unfortunate night that I'm quite sure we'll talk about going forward, Derek Harper would have been the MVP of that series.
Mm.
Derek Harper was a phenomenal guard. He knew exactly when to get his shot. He knew how to set people up. Patrick Ewing, he knew how to get Patrick Ewing his which guard his get Patrick Ewing his shots when he wanted them. He knew how to keep him engaged. He was the ultimate floor general to me, and he was
Mm.
another one who encompassed that. But like I was saying, John Starks in the Knicks in its entirety were a ragtag group that had to come together as one to reach their pinnacle. Because there was no one real star that was ever going to take out Jordan. Jordan was at his zenith at the time, and he was taking down. He took down Zeke. He took down Dominique. He took down, shoot, for a lack of, I won't say Craig Elo, but yeah, he was Craig Elo's father back in the day. But he took down everybody in the East. And it really wasn't a great matchup between him and Patrick Ewing because, like, Patrick is a center and Jordan was Jordan.
Right.
So you needed someone on the perimeter that could kind of either irritate him, slow him down, get him off his game. And at the time, we thought John Starks was the best that we had. and yeah, it's just like the Knicks had to embody. They had to do something different because outscoring everybody wasn't going to work. So we
Right.
needed to, we needed to really grit and grind. The New York Knicks was the first grit and grind team. Shout out to Memphis back in the day, but New York Knicks started the grit and grind.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. I think that's fair to say. And even to this day, I think me and you had those same conversations. Like I asked you, like, hey, like, do you find it sometimes where it's like the New York Knicks kind of sacrifice actually forming a championship team in favor of uh getting a team like that? If that makes sense. I think it's fair to say that that's really became their identity since then.
I mean, if you really, I'll say this, and I think we might have actually had a discussion on this.
Uh-huh.
Um, this current incarnation of the Knicks that they're building right now, especially this past year, I want to say the reason why they've galvanized the fan base the way they have is because of the collection of parts. Yes, everybody knows now that Jalen Brunson is that dude. I
Yeah.
don't want to hear that. Oh, we still need to get a 1A. He's a Robin. No, he's a Batman. He showed it the last 2 years, especially this last playoff run in particular, where it pretty much was on him. He was like the new school Iverson of, okay, give me the rock and I'm gonna make everything happen for everybody. But
Facts.
the
It
rest of the
being from the Chicagoland area, it gave me a little D Rose too, in the sense of like nobody expects a 6'3", 6'2" dude to put a team on your back like that.
Yeah, exactly. So, but even more so, the pieces on this team, you have DiVincenzo and Josh Hart playing 48 minutes a night without complaining
Mhm.
whatsoever. OG, okay, yeah, is he injury prone? Yes, but I give him the utmost credit, even strapping it up in that game
Yeah.
seven and trying to go out and do something for his team. He shot his first threes. It kind of was reminiscent of when KD came back for the Warriors after,
Oh.
right before he tore his Achilles,
Uh-huh.
and he was hot, and then he just, well, they not even shut it down. He pretty much ripped it. It was reminiscent of that, but he gave us all he could, knowing that this $200 million was in the air. That if he really does any more damage, that $200 million probably might not be there if he does any more damage. But he did that because of the culture that was instilled in that team, and that's why I don't care what the NBA media says. Inside the NBA, the people on First Take or what have you, where they pretty much make fun of Knicks fans for going wild in front of the Garden. There's a reason why the fan base was going wild in front of the Garden, wild on Seventh Avenue after every game. It's because this team restored the
Mm.
feeling that they're doing it for each other. They're playing for each other. They're playing with one common goal, one common cause. And Thibodeau, he's from that 90s era's Knicks toward the end, like,
He is.
like with the Van Gundy Knicks. So
Yeah.
he knows exactly what this city needs. He knows exactly what the fan base needs. And that's why I believe this is the closest we're going to be toward a perennial contender than we have been in 30 years, starting with the Starks Knicks.
I'm with it. I'm with it. I think the same thing. Like I said, like I told you, I tweeted you, man. I'm excited for y'all. From a distance, I'm excited for y'all. Again, like you said, John Starks was a big part of that, fostering that energy firsthand. Now, do you feel like John Starks is underrated, or do you think he's in good standing among fans and peers? Where do you think he sits in that conversation?
Well, I'll say from a Knicks fan perspective, he's a legend.
Mm.
Um, like on the outside looking in, and but this goes along where or everybody think about the Knicks. They always look at the Knicks as the butt of the joke.
Mhm.
So yes, did he go 2 for 18 in Game 7 against the Rockets when we had a 3-2 lead and should have at least got one of those games in Houston to win the championship? Yes. Should Pat Riley have actually, excuse me, sat him down and allowed him to recollect his thoughts and put Hubert Davis in, or which go put Rolando Blackman in just to get a different look. Yes, but it was that tenaciousness that got John Starks where he ultimately got to be.
Mm.
Everybody forgets Game 6. If it wasn't for the fingertip of Hakeem Olajuwon, that three is going in. Game, set, match. It's a wrap. It's over. But like,
Can you just replay that moment for those of us who weren't there?
okay, that oh man, that Game 6, we into Game 6 up 3-2 because we were down 2-1. We won two games in a row to go to we got one. I believe we won Game 5 and Game 6. No, Game 4 and Game 5 to go back to Houston up 3-2.
Mhm.
And John Starks, I want to say, just off the top of my head, he scored maybe in the late 20s. He was like 26, 27 points, and he was on fire. And that last possession, everybody knew the ball was going to Starks. And Starks was over alone in the corner. And when I don't to this day, I don't know how Elijah got out to that 3-point line the way he did. It's almost like he teleported there. Cause I'm sitting in my living room, and at the time, quiet as kept, my TV, we had a old color TV, an old Zenith, right? And by this time, the Zenith, this one of those big backs, and the Zenith picture was like I only had half a screen, but I could see the majority of what I need to do on that other half of the screen, right? So all I know is I see Elijah just jet to the corner, Starks rises and shoots, and I just knew it was going in, and it goes off, and I'm like, okay, all right. And then they showed a replay that Elijah actually tipped the ball. He actually got
Wow.
to the ball. But right then and there, I'm not gonna lie. I had a feeling. I was like, this series is over. We needed to win in 6. We didn't need to win in 7. We needed to win in 6.
Mm.
And when I say I think I broke a mirror in my lobby because after the game, I stormed downstairs, to go outside, go with the people. Because back then, this was like appointment watching. Everybody, the streets, this is summertime. Streets are empty. We in the hood. Streets are empty. Everybody in the crib watching the Knicks. And then when the Knicks game was over, everybody flood outside to say what happened. So I'm like, my building had two sides. So I lived in the back. So
Uh-huh.
in the middle, there was like these 4 mirrors. And I remember I was so peed off. I was walking down and I was like, can't believe it. And I banged the window. I banged the mirror and the mirror broke. And needless to say, out of the 4 mirrors, I was responsible for 3 of those mirrors to be broken at various times. But that's past history. We're not going to talk about that. We're not going to talk about that. But
That's not quite the you had to be there that you're looking
oh
for,
no,
I
no, no. You definitely didn't
guess.
have to be there. But yeah, but when I say we was all outside and we was like, yo, Starks would have been the MVP. Starks almost got us the chip. Yeah, we don't worry about it. We're gonna run it back. So for him to come up short in game 7, I always give him a pass because at the end of the day, John Starks wasn't the star. John Starks was to me the engine of that team, but John Starks wasn't the star. He wasn't the person on the marquee.
Mhm.
Patrick Ewing was on the marquee.
Mhm.
Elijah was a center. Going to Patrick Ewing. Elijah ate Patrick Ewing's lunch from college where he was with Five Slammer Jammer back in the day. So my thing is, and this might sound blasphemous as a Knicks fan, probably not, because unfortunately Patrick Ewing to me is not in the highest standing when it comes to a lot of Knicks fans. I don't know, maybe it's the way he left. I'm not quite sure, but if anybody should take blame off us losing in Game 7. Yeah, Starks was shooting because Patrick Ewing couldn't. Starks was shooting because Patrick Ewing was on lock. Right?
Mm.
Do you really think Starks? Do you really think Riley said, you know what? I'm going to take the keys from Patrick Ewing and give it to Starks for no reason?
And I'm
No.
thinking too, because I'm like, how comfortable a 7'1" Hakeem Olajuwon felt to just leave off, I'm sure Patrick Ewing and go get John in the corner. That's the thing going through my mind. How comfortable you gotta be to just leave your man and say, "I'm getting that. I'm blocking that shot in the corner."
Listen, I know I really didn't want to turn this into Patrick Ewing slander. And tell you the truth, my people when they watch this, when they listen to this, they probably gonna be like, "Yo, Mike, you really wilding right now." But in consecutive years, we had Patrick Ewing coming up short against Elijah on. Then I believe the next year we had Patrick Ewing missing the finger roll when he should have just yammed it at the,
Yeah.
and then if you go 96, 97, 98, there was no reason why we wasn't, you know what? How about this? Our last finals run, the team that had LJ, Camby, Spreewell, Houston, who was conveniently missing from that run? Patrick Ewing.
Mm.
I believe that's when he had I think his Achilles problem. Um, yeah, did we run up against a buzzsaw when we got to San Antonio with the Twin Towers? Yeah. Would we have needed it? Needed Patrick Ewing? Perhaps. But to me, I'm sorry, especially at that time, I think he was a better team without Patrick Ewing because for once, Houston seemed like he actually got the confidence in him to go one on one. Because before Houston was a spot up shooter. You know, Latrell always had that dog in him. It's almost like once Patrick Ewing went to the side, Latrell told Houston like, "Yo, it's me and you against the world. LJ riding, can be riding. Yo, we got to do this thing," and we did it. So all all those years, Patrick Ewing came up short. I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it was a under the table clandestine agreement between him and Jordan. Jordan's like, "Look, you want to make sure you get paid, you're gonna know your place. You know, you'll always be number three. So
Mm.
so
Mm.
not even number two, number three. You know, so but like I said, not to get too far off the beaten path. Starks was the engine of those teams. Um, yeah, you had the brief moment that Anthony Mason was supposed to be the point forward. That was the Don Nelson years and what have you. Yeah, we know that and Patrick Ewing got that squash. But I wonder how that would have looked if they would have allowed Don Nelson to really implement his offense. I wonder how that would have looked. We didn't really have the pieces to run that offense, but Patrick Ewing, my thing is, yeah, you in the marquee, but you didn't show up when we needed you the most. That was a mano matchup. And everybody, I know everybody in my age bracket that's a Knicks fan has to admit that Patrick Ewing's the one that let us down in that final series. It wasn't Starks, it wasn't Harper, it was Patrick Ewing. It wasn't even Pat Riley. It was Patrick Ewing. That was your matchup. That was the one that you were supposed to neutralize, and we were supposed to take. We had a rookie Robert Ory and a rookie Sam Cassell handle handle their business in the garden. We were supposed to be able to neutralize that if you would have took care of your problem down low. You didn't do it, hence we lost, and we never came that close again.
We going back in time on H2DG. I love it. I love it. I didn't mean to take you all the way back there though, Mike. I didn't mean
Listen, you just gave me flashbacks. That's why I'm actually glad that I listened to my gut and I said, you know what, I'm going with John Stark because I knew these flashbacks are going to come up, and I'm going. Like, you listen, you know, I'm the tangent king. So you open the door, I'm gonna kick my door. I'm gonna kick that door wide open.
As a fan of Hip to the Games, not only should you show your love for the podcast, but you gotta express your love for basketball and hip hop. With a wide variety of clothing and accessories, there is always a way to show how much the game of basketball and the game of rap means to you. Let everybody know what it means to be hip to the games by clicking the link in the episode's description to cop some merch and represent the H2DG lifestyle. So it's funny we were talking about John Stark's kind of slower start and more unique path to the league. How funny is it, and especially for you, how funny is it that he started with Golden State? Then it was when he went to the CBA and went to your beloved Knicks before later in his 30s going back to the Warriors again. Ain't that something?
You know, it's one of those things that I guess they always say life comes is 360 degrees in rotation. You know, everything that starts ends, and
Mhm.
it's funny because in though I think the last his last stint in Golden State, I think that's when we got I think we I think we received Chris Mills. Was it Chris Mills and Terry Cummins? I believe we got for John Starks. But by that time, John Starks was on the downside of his career, so to speak,
Hmm.
because they kind of we kind of got our replacement in Allen Houston. Once we signed Allen Houston, everybody knew John Starks' days was numbered because literally they played the same position. And but going back to your original question, it is ironic that they started with Golden State, and I wonder if he would have had more. I think there was a tension. I was reading somewhere that there was a tension between him and Don Nelson, and that kind of led him to leave that team or pretty much get the exit of that team because that was also the season that they drafted Mitch Richmond, and I'm not gonna lie, Mitch Richmond was a
That dude.
better overall player than John Starks, so I could understand, but shoot, what I wonder would it have been hmm, would it have been run TJC if it wasn't Mitch,
Yeah.
if it was John Starks, Tim Hardaway, John Starks, and Chris Mullin.
That's
That
definitely
would have
something to
been
think about. That's interesting.
yeah, interesting. But yeah, I think everything happens the way it needed to happen. I mean, yeah, you could say that in hindsight, but I really don't see him fitting in on those run and gun Golden State teams. Um, he needed a team that was going to fully embrace his personality, his tenaciousness, both on the court and off the court. That Southern drawl probably wouldn't have really, really hung out in the Bay at that time. I mean, sure, it's one thing to be Southern from in New York, but it's look, New York is a melting pot. The Bay, eh, no, I don't know. So but yeah, it's I think those that formative year in the CBA really helped um give him the armor of okay, I can't be stopped. I will not allow myself to be stopped. This is my destiny. This is what I'm meant to do. This is what I'm going to do. And yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I think it's safe to say that's what he did because you look at his really his first year with the Knicks. He played 61 games. He was there, but 7 points a game. He didn't really blow up till that following year. He was top five and six man, top 10 in most improved. 14 points, 2 rebounds, 3 assists. And I'm just scanning like the rest of his career because that 91-92 season, he played every game, but came off the bench every game. But then the next few seasons, there's a mixture. Like he plays a lot off the bench, but then we get to like 93, 94, 95 is when he's starting on a consistent basis. And then 96, 97, he's coming off the bench again. And it kind of makes me think of Manu Ginobili. Like, was John Starks in the same in the sense that he could come off the bench and he was a capable starter?
Yes and yes and well, yes. I want to say, depending on the the team makeup that in that particular in any particular season, he was versatile,
Mhm.
but I think he was more effective coming off the bench for the Knicks because back then we really was looking for scoring punch because these are the years that if you got into the mid '90s, you was considered a top scoring team. So we always was looking for a scoring punch, and everybody knew, like I said in the spiel before, that this was Patrick Ewing's team. So in order for John Starks to get full to reach his full capabilities, he had to come in with that second unit where he had the green light, where he was
Mm.
able to show off all the facets of his game instead of okay, we're gonna get the ball in the perimeter and yeah, we're gonna feed the post and now you're gonna spot up. That wasn't really his game. His game was yeah, he could shoot the three, he could spot up from three, but he was a slasher. He was mobile, more mobile than you would think. And it's funny, and nowadays in the in the days of advanced analytics, I'm happen to look at his stats right now, especially from three.
Uh-huh.
And you would think, with everybody knowing what kind of 3-point shooter he was back then, you look at the stats and you're like, darn, there was one year he 31% from three. Another year he was 34% from three. I mean, I think, yeah, and I think that was his highest. Yeah, I think, and then it's like his highest year from three was 30, 36, 30, yeah, 36%. And that was in 96, 97. And that
Yeah.
was the year he had one start. you know, so I like I'm looking at these stats right now and I'm like, darn, I really thought he was more prolific from three, but at the same time, it was a different era. It was an
Hmm.
inside out era. It wasn't really, all right, we're gonna go four outside, outside in, or whatever you want to call it right now. It wasn't like you had a big man that was actually sitting at the top of the key that was spotting up for a pick and pop. No, he was pick and roll. Everything was pick and roll back then, or isolation. I mean, shoot, I think the ISO man back then was, I used to hate the way Charles Barkley used to play, because he would just get the ball and he was
Back
like,
down,
clear
back
out,
down, back down.
clear out, back you out, back you out, back. I, I swear that, you know what? I'm going to stop because I'm about to go a whole different way. But yeah, like I said, I think he was better suited coming off the bench because you can get the full array of his skill set instead of plugging him um in the starting lineup and him having to pretty much play second fiddle. Yeah, everybody know. Yeah, you're from the CBA. Yeah, you're undrafted or what have you. Yeah, you're gonna be a second fiddle to #1 draft pick, the franchise. But it was just, I think he was better served coming off the bench, especially in those formative years in the mid '90s.
Yeah, because it seemed like he was quite the punch. Like when he was getting a lot of minutes and really starting, I was like, he showed he could score and he could pass, even if he wasn't necessarily the primary ball handler, or like to your point, maybe he had to be the primary ball handler, so you could see where his numbers take a leap there. But even when he was coming off the bench, he was still getting you like 12 to 13. So it shows, he was getting his opportunities and he was taking advantage of them. Which to me is a little it was is interesting because when you talk about how he plays, you would think you probably wouldn't guess these stats. I think like if we had somebody close their eyes and like guess John Stark's career numbers, it probably wouldn't be, at least in my eyes, they probably wouldn't guess that he was not once a 19-point scorer. The year he made the All-Star team, they probably wouldn't guess that he was in the six man running like 3-4 times in his career, right? Like it's funny to how and especially back then, like it's different, right? Those guys stood out a little more. It makes sense why they would get the all-star votes, things of that nature. But so I don't know. So it's interesting because even then, one of the questions I'm going to ask you later, I already have somebody in mind that he's like reminds me of, but it's not 100% accurate. So when we get to there, I'm anxious to see, if what your current comparison would be for him. But you mentioned Mike that he got a shot blocked. He was the brave soul, took that last shot versus the Rockets. But I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the dunk. I mean, if I'm correct, was that 94,
It was 93. That
93?
was the year prior to us getting to the finals. That was
Okay.
the year in which we had a 2 games to zip lead over the Chicago Bulls. We were the #1 seed that year. I believe we won 61 games that year. And you could not tell me that we were not going to the finals. That we were not going to face either I think it was Phoenix. Yeah,
Yeah.
Phoenix
Yeah.
got into the finals that year. You couldn't tell me, especially after the dunk. And I'm so glad that you brought that up. And because once again, I lost my train of thought, and but that dunk, the poster's infamous and it's very sentimental for me. Um, my late bro, for 30 years, he passed away last year, and I remember as soon as the dunk happened, he made a beeline. There was this record store. I want to say there was this record store that was famous in Brooklyn called Birdell's, right?
Hmm.
Like anytime somebody had a release, The artists would come. I believe Big came over there. Um, couple artists. Even it didn't even have to be Brooklyn artists, but a lot of artists would go to this record store. This is back in the day before everything was online. This is back in the day before the big thing, Sam Goody and all that. No, this was like the neighborhood record store, right? But they used to sell posters. So he went down there, he got the poster, put it on his wall. And um it was like the best thing because everybody was saying, "Oh, Jordan didn't get dunked on." No, Jordan got dunked on. He was in that post. That he was the only person at that time that caught Jordan on a poster with a dunk. And I remember it like it was yesterday. He caught that corner. It's almost like he faked one way and went baseline. And he leaned into it and caught like 3 bulls underneath the basket. Because nobody thought Starks was gonna dunk.
Right.
Nobody thought anybody had the gumption to even try to do that with Michael Jordan anywhere in the vicinity. And that was like the icing on the cake. We're up 2-zip. You can't tell me that we're gonna lose four straight games. You couldn't tell me we wasn't really going to at least going to go to game 7. No, we wasn't going to go to game 7 because I was thinking sweep
Mm.
or an out in thinking sweep. And it's almost like that game, that dunk in particular, woke up not only Jordan, not only the rest of the Chicago Bulls, but Phil Jackson must have got in there, you know what, and like, listen, you let that grocery packer, you let him embarrass us? You're 2-time champions. We're not going down like that. And they commenced to whoop out, you know what, 4 straight games. So yeah,
Man,
that
man.
that dunk is iconic.
Yeah.
It's iconic. Like thanks for
Is
reminding me
that
because
a
I can't believe I forgot that.
is that a top 5 playoff dunk?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Between that one, matter of fact, I got to put that number 1 because like I said, that's my Knicks. Like I have to put that number 1.
Mm.
But between that one and I believe there was a Kevin Johnson dunk
Oh, I
from
think I know
from
what you're
around
talking
that
about.
era,
Yeah.
and KJ was nasty.
KJ had bounce.
So,
KJ had
yeah.
bounce.
So between that one, I want to say those were neck and neck. I got to put the Starks one above because just out of bias. But yeah, him and KJ neck and neck from that era.
That's dope. That's dope. That's dope. I think, and I mean, that's I envy that. You know what I'm saying? Not being able to watch something like that live, like what that felt like live, especially against the Bulls, man. Like come on, like they say, you come for the king, you best not miss, right? And John Starks made sure he didn't miss. You know what I'm saying? He took that moment by the throat, and you can't help but look back and see that as a classic moment in not just Knicks history but NBA history. And again, knowing his story is that's like dope for him to have a moment like that. Are there any other highlights of John that might come to mind to you? Any other memories of his
Um,
game? Anything like that?
to to me, the even more than the battles against the Bulls, I find myself when I think about John Starks in those playoff runs, were the battles against Reggie Miller and the Indiana Pacers,
Mm.
because literally, excuse me, they would go for for each other throw every game. It was almost like it wasn't so much how much John Starks could score in those series; it was how much he can get under the skin of Reggie Miller. And on a personal note, like actually, I was talking about this a couple days ago with a fellow 19 Media Group teammate Tyler McDowell about
Shout out Ty.
how we, when we're playing ball, how sometimes we emulate either um, the form, the shooting form, or the footwork. And one of my go-tos whenever I was at the foul line is I modeled my foul shot after John Starks, which is crazy because some people are like, what do you mean you modeled your foul shot? You didn't model. No, because I really wasn't. I was more of a set shot person. I wasn't a jump shot person. I didn't try to get too much height on my jump shot. My thing was more about the wrist. I always meant to make sure I got the rotation on,
Uh-huh.
for better or for worse. But John Starks, he would be at the foul line, and he would have his legs kind of wide, and I think he was maybe dribble about 3 times, and he would go up, and it was like picture perfect, with the arm perpendicular, with the wrist,
Uh-huh. 90
and
degrees.
yeah, and being the fact, like I said, I would never say I was the nicest person on the court. I gave 105% effort, but I was never the nicest person on the court. Little known fact about me, um, if if the rim had a net on it, my shooting percentage went up maybe like 25%. I couldn't be out there with a naked rim. And if we was inside in a gym, forget about it. I'm shooting at least like 45%. If we're outside, the wind, or if I'm away from my people, because for some reason, because I guess I had whatever reputation I had on the court. When I was around my people, I would always stink it up. But I would go to other people's court, and I would be nasty. My handle was better. My shot was water. But neither here nor there. John Stocks, his foul shot form are always emulated. Um, but going back to the question you asked, it would have to be, like I said, it wouldn't be just one particular or even a couple. It would be just like those series against the Indiana Pacers. That's what's forever etched in my brain when it comes to John Starks in the playoffs. The
Mm.
dunk was one thing, but I never really thought of him and Jordan being mano a mano. I always thought of him and Reggie Miller being mano a
Mm.
mano. Even though I respect, I grew to respect Reggie Miller's game a lot toward the end of his career, but at that time when he was Cheryl's brother, I had no respect for Reggie, and I think he's trying to bring some of that energy back now since they bumped this in the semifinals this year. But yeah, it was always Starks and Reggie for me. So yeah, I
Wow.
can't give you one particular moment, but it was just that whole era of those matchups.
No, that's dope. And again, that was back at that time where like if you was in the same position, you like it was a battle every trip down. Like, that's what I miss about today's game. Like really see you don't really see a Tatum always on a Jimmy Butler or vice versa. You was like, oh, okay, well, Bam is a good defender, so we'll let him guard. I'll let you get him a few times, and then maybe in the fourth quarter I'll get him, or you know what, he was cooking me all game. Let me save my energy and so I can get buckets in the fourth. I'll let I don't know. Well, I know he's not on the team anymore, but Caleb Martin, you know what I'm saying? We'll throw a different body at you. Like, nah, like I miss that mano y mano type, like you alluded to, where it was the same position. Everybody knew, right? You got this all defense type player in John Starks, and then you got this one of the best shooters in the league, one of the best shooters, period, in Reggie Miller. Like that's the matchup fans want to see, and the players and the players knew that. I like that again. That's what I miss I hate when the players sometimes go in these interviews and they kind of play it cool. I like the guys again. I think that's why so many of us like Anthony Edwards because he'll straight up tell you, I want KD and I can beat KD. If y'all let me show it, like y'all in for a show. But that's what I'm going for. Like, yes, I want to beat the Suns, but I want to beat KD. I miss
No,
that.
I agree. Like, um, I don't want to be the old head on the porch, but it seems like a lot of them run or duck from the challenge.
Hmm.
It's like, all right, I don't want this to damage my brand. If such and such gets a one up on me, then that's gonna damage my brand. My thing is, whatever happened to true competitive nature? You know, stats are stats. Stats are stats. Yeah, you could average 25 and your counterpoint can average 30. But if y'all not really going head to head, to me, those are empty stats.
Hmm.
Those are empty stats. And I'm not even faulting this newer generation of having to be quote unquote enemies, sworn enemies. Personally, I think once you get inside the lines, if your friendship, if your relationship is cool like that for real, then you shouldn't mind me trying to take your head off. It's
Yeah.
almost like it's almost that's why, and to kind of segue into hip hop for a minute, that's why I admire Kendrick Lamar so much, and he let it be known years ago when he
Yeah.
dropped that control verse. He let it
Mm-hmm.
be known years ago, like, look, me and you cool, but when we get in this booth, Terry, I'm going for your head.
Exactly.
I'll even go to a more personal thing when it comes to the locks. Styles, Jada, Cheek, they all say, "Yo, that's my brother." But best believe when we get on the song with each other, I'm trying to take his head off because that's my brother, and he shouldn't expect any less. You know, pretty much what's the old saying? Iron sharpens iron. So
Yeah.
therefore, if I'm going hard, and you know I'm going hard, then that's going to level your game up, and that's going to level your game up. It shouldn't be no hard feelings, you know. And but nowadays things can get so sensitive that people's competitive nature has taken a back seat to what everybody should aspire for, which is greatness. You know, I mean, one last thing, and like I said, I'm going all over the place, but it's still the same sentiment. The situation that happened a couple probably a month ago or so on First Take with Monica McNutt and Stephen A.
Mm-hmm.
Monica said in which court in interviews after that, she said, "Look, y'all bring me on here to do a job. Y'all bring me over here to not only have my opinion but debate. I thought we were cool. I thought we could just really just speak our mind without any feelings getting involved. Why, if that's my job, if you're confident, if I'm confident that me and you rock a certain way that we're real cool, then me and you have a differing opinion should not affect our outside relationship. It's a subject.
Mm-hmm.
It's a subject. I shouldn't be in my feelings. You shouldn't be in your feelings. And I think to bring this back, that's what's missing in basketball to me for the most part. Which go Ant-Man, he got it.
Yeah.
I admire his game. Um, to a certain degree. I don't know how he's going to be when he comes back. Hopefully, he gets all the off court things squared away. John Morant, I believe he's one of
Oh,
those that when he gets on the court, he's trying to take your head off.
that's another good
No,
example.
yeah, no hard feelings. You know, no, I'm not bending down and kissing the ring. We take it back to the 90s. Iverson, do you think Iverson was trying to kiss the ring of Jordan? No, he was trying to break his ankles,
Yep.
which he did.
Yeah.
And
And
I'm quite
might I add one of the most gangster performances of all time, that 2001 in LA. Yeah. Yeah.
you know, like that was his thing. Even which guy, even Kobe. Kobe, you think Kobe was bowing down to anybody? No, not at all. Not at all. But that's what made them great. That's what brought them to that greatness level is because of the competitive sport, the competitive nature. And I think that's what's missing, you know, the WNBA to a certain degree. I think that's why a lot of people are so enamored with, oh, Caitlin Clark this and oh, which guard they fouled her and blah 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 blah. No, they still kind of embody
Oh yeah.
in a lot of ways the '90s game.
Yeah.
They embody like, look, okay, listen, we're not bowing down to you. It's no. A lot of them say there's no hard feelings. There's some hard feelings
Yeah.
here and there. But but at its core, it's all about competitiveness. It's not about, oh, I'm trying to protect my brand. No, we're trying to do what we got to do, and hopefully we get now we got this exposure. Now I'm really trying to show out and really go for your head because yo, we got 20,000 people in the stands. We haven't had this before. Guess what? These 20,000 people gonna get their money's worth right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think to the point, like again, within the stories, it's like That's everything that John Starks was about. Ultra competitor. I think knew how he started, right? So it's like, hey, I'm coming. I was almost out the league. Technically, I shouldn't even be here. And he was kind of an undersized two guard at that. So it's like I'm putting everything on the table. Like the Knicks or whoever I'm playing for are gonna get every skill set that I can bring to this game. And he didn't, if I'm speaking for, my generation, he didn't duck the smoke. Again, that was something you see a lot nowadays. John Starks didn't duck the smoke. He went after Reggie Miller. He went after Michael Jordan, and quite literally with the dunk, right? But for him to be that, like you said, the energizer, even if he wasn't the main focal point, for him to, especially in New York, to be on that stage and just kind of emerge as an energizer, that's how the fans loved him and how they still love him to this day. Even me, like just as an NBA fan, I can see the reverence that New York has for John Starks. Like you said, he's a legend. Like it's all those things that make up who he was and as a basketball player. And with all of that in mind, Mike, I want to ask you, you know, is there anybody in the game today that does remind you of John Starks?
Mm,
Because we did talk a little bit about how we feel about this NBA, but is there somebody out there that has a little bit?
wow. Wow, that's a good question, and I should have saw it coming.
I have a thought. Would you like me to share it first? Because so my thing, I immediately thought of Alex Caruso, but Alex Caruso doesn't score clearly like how John did. John seemed to have a little bit more of a microwave tendency more than Alex Caruso. Alex Caruso probably ain't getting you more than 9 points. Like if I'm being 100, like John Starks is getting you like 12 to 15 for sure. So I can't. I want to like put the Alex Caruso tenacity with somebody that actually is scoring.
you know, and this might be recency bias, because I was actually thinking of one person, and then when you said Alex Caruso while you was explaining that, it just automatically Josh Hart.
I thought of Josh a little bit. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Josh Hart, because he gives you the tenacity. He gives you he gives you the, he gives you the tenacity, not even so much on the defensive front as like John Starks. They're not mirror images. But
Hmm.
for anybody, for a guard, people fail to realize or conveniently forget Josh Hart is a guard playing power forward in the playoffs, averaging double digits rebounds,
Yeah,
playing almost 48 minutes a day. So with no problems, and he's clutch. He can brick all throughout the regular season. He can shoot 29% from three. And guess who has some of the biggest threes in this which go playoff run for the New York Knicks? Josh Hart. So you know
I
what?
like
Like
it.
I said, recency bias, perhaps, probably. I'll go with Josh Hart. I was going to say DiVincenzo. No, 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 no. Josh Hart.
I like that. I like that because, like you said, it may not show in the numbers. Like if you're just watching, you're probably not going to see that. But like when the moment comes, he that's when he takes that leap. I can see it. I can see it.
Because if you think about it, I personally think, and like I said, it's not even me copping the plea. I personally think if Josh Hart was not compromised in Game 7 with the abdominal pull or what have you,
Hmm.
I don't believe we might have lost that game. Yeah, Jalen Brunson probably would have got hurt or whatever. But I personally believe that game would have been more in doubt than it was, because literally when we started that game, we were playing 3-on-5. We had OG trying his best, and we had Josh Hart maybe about 50-60%. He
Yeah,
couldn't he couldn't battle on the boards. They knew that they were eating him alive. So I believe if he was 100%, that might have had a different outcome. But he's also the engine that makes that team run, which is going to be interesting going into this next season, because we have Mikal Bridges now back to
hmm,
the fold. But I think he knows where he's going to slot in, and we're going to have Jules back. Who, it's funny because everybody listen to me, they know I never was the biggest Julius Randle fan. I always was calling for him to, yeah, get rid of him, get rid of him, get rid of him.
Right.
I'll say I've gotten newfound respect for Julius Randle for one reason and one reason only. I watched the episode he was on with Carmelo,
Hmm.
Carmelo and Miro,
Hmm.
and the reverence that Carmelo gives to Julius Randle's game, and I like Carmelo's one of my favorites of all time. So I feel like if Carmelo respects his game to that point, to that much that he was giving him his flowers and kind of like, you know, tutoring Julius, like, look, all right, you know how it is in New York. I know how it is in New York. Maybe, I'm quite sure behind the scenes, look, you're gonna have to fit in here, fit in there, fit in there. 24, 10, and 5, you can't sneeze at.
Yeah.
And he's not going to be asked to be the man. He, as long as he allows himself to be the B to Jalen's A, or sometimes the C. But matter of fact, I think Bridges probably will be more comfortable being the C at
Hmm.
times and allowing Brunson and Randall to do their thing. But yeah, Julius Randle, I really talked myself into a circle. But yeah, Julius Randle, I have respect for him, his game too. But Josh Hart is the engine for that team. He is what makes that team go. And when Josh Hart is not there, you see a stark difference. Yeah, that's what I was
Oh,
gonna
pun intended.
Huh?
I said pun intended. You see a stark difference.
Yeah. He is definitely that.
Yeah, and I'm curious, let us know if you feel this, if you feel a different way, because I think there are some other players that we're not thinking of right now that might be have some similarities to John Stark. So I would love to hear your thoughts as well. But the 2023-24 NBA season is here, and there's no better time to cop the flyest and authentic merch to rep your squad. If you're looking for the ultimate destination for NBA gear to rep the home team, look no further than the NBA store. With an extensive selection of authentic and high-quality products like jerseys, hats, and accessories, the NBA store has everything you need to express yourself. Word to NWA. And with an online presence, it becomes even easier to shop from anywhere in the world. Don't miss out on the latest trends and experiences. Visit the NBA store today by clicking the affiliate link in this episode's description. Hip to the Games is working in affiliation with the NBA store and will be compensated for your patronage by utilizing the link provided. I sincerely thank you for all your support. Next one, Mike. You have the opportunity to put John Starks in the modern NBA with four current players that would realistically fit with his style of play. Who would those four teammates be? All right, and the same thing I told Jabari. If these guys happen to all be all stars, that's cool. It ain't no salary cap. But I just mean like kind of realistically, as far as play style, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Ooh, that's a good one. Um, hmm. Yeah, damn, that's a good one. Okay. Even though this would be an undecided backcourt,
Yeah. Yeah.
I have to go with Steph.
Okay.
I have to go with Steph. That would be numero uno. Um, hmm. I would I would go with Ant Man also.
Hmm.
So
In
right then and
The
there,
Spreewell kind of energy, I feel like.
yeah, right
Yeah.
then and there, you're pretty much I'm going with a 3 guard lineup, right? So I'll go with Steph, Starks, Ant Man. Now I need the bigs. Ooh, see that's an interesting one. Um, I know y'all. I'm gonna get flamed in the comments. Um, I would go Tatum. Tatum would be my 4.
I thought about Tatum also.
Now for the 5, I don't know why my mind is going to Porzingis, but I there's no way in hell I could which guard I could pick Porzingis just because I'm a Nick. Um, hmm, darn. I wouldn't go Gobert, even though I just with that amount of scoring, I don't need it. I don't need my 5 to score. But I couldn't go with Gobert. Um, and this is gonna be like I said, I'm gonna get flamed in the comments, but and this is really bias going on. I would go with you're gonna laugh. I would go with Mitch Robinson at the
Ooh,
5.
ooh. So
So,
it's Steph, Starks, Ant-Man, Tatum, and Mitchell Robinson.
yep,
I'm with it.
because Mitch can just concentrate on defense, concentrate on rebounding, concentrating on controlling the paint, and he doesn't. And you don't need him to score at all. Will he be a lob threat? Perhaps if you need to, but with the playmaking of Steph, then you have the tenacity on defense of Starks, and then you have the tenacity, overall tenacity of Ant Man.
Mhm.
That's a tough 3. Tatum just for height, just for size, and also I'm as you can see, I'm playing strictly perimeter. It's not going to be much of a post presence. And then you have Mitch Robinson just cleaning up for everybody.
Yeah.
And I believe that you have enough defense that it's not like he's going to have to erase everybody's mistake by them getting blown by. Are we going to get horsed on the boards? Probably, but I don't. I think that would be a formidable 5.
I like it. I like that you kept I mean, well, really, you got a nice big three there with Steph, Ant-Man, and um Tatum. So, like, to your point, Starks ain't gonna have to worry about too much. It's a perfect fit for him to do what he does best. Now, see, the tough thing, because obviously I gotta answer it too. And the tough thing for me, like, I don't want to use the players that I've used in previous episodes, and I would have to look back to see if I used some of these guys already. I one, maybe two of them I might have, but I don't remember. But at least in my first thought, and again, now you talk about you getting flamed. I'm probably getting flamed because I have very limited 3-point shooting.
Oh, oh
But
wow.
I went and again, like you said, I got this old soul in me to where, like, I like loud defense. I like guys that ain't afraid to push and shove. I like high IQ point guards, So I went at my one, I got Mike Conley. Again, I know older, but veteran point guard. I think every team he's been on, he's pretty much taken them to a like a if Michael Conley is your point guard, you're pretty much going to the semifinals. So I
Quintessential point guard.
yeah, right. Longevity, the whole nine. Um, and then of course I got Starks at my 2, and then I went Jimmy Butler. Again, somebody who's not afraid to get in somebody's face.
Okay.
And then with that in mind, I went straight to Draymond. I know Draymond isn't necessarily the Draymond he used to be, but and I know he liked punching people in practice, but it fits the ruggedness I'm trying to bring. And then again, I hate to do it, with the New York thing, but Atlantic Division, but I had to go Embiid, man. I had to go
Oh,
I had to go Embiid, and I know Embiid. Like I say, the two guys who I think try to be like Carmelo too much, and that's Julius Randle and Joel Embiid, and that's what annoys me about their game sometimes, is that
okay.
they face up a lot when they're able to play bully ball.
Okay.
So if I get bully ball Embiid, I'm good, but if he starts doing all that jump shot, I don't know. I don't.
Let me ask you a question.
What's up?
Concerning Embiid.
Uh-huh.
Do you believe that Embiid, even yeah, I mean, listen, you can't take away his perimeter game. His shot, I mean, he shoots like a guard. You can't take that away.
Mhm.
But do you believe that he depends on that so much due to lack of stamina?
I think so. I think so. And
Because it's
but
easy just to stay out and shoot instead of, all right, we're gonna bang.
I think that you want to know what's crazy? I think that question might be answered this season. Because if you look, he's had the best of both worlds in that regard. He's been pretty healthy, um, and he's scoring the best numbers of his career. And my thing is, especially now with getting Paul George, like Joel Embiid should not have a third straight year with 33 points a game. Like
No.
as dominant and as awesome as he's been, that's going to take a toll, especially on a guy like him who has struggled with injuries, and especially that slow start he had, missing like the first 2 years of what could have been his NBA career. I think definitely now he's trying to conserve his stamina, and it helps. It looks good because he's making shots. It looks great because he's making shots. But I think this year, I'm really anxious to see if he's going to favor even more to the jump shot with that in mind. And because I think I don't know. I don't know. I think he can be the thing about him being dominant in the paint is that it might get him extra bumps and bruises that he doesn't want to have. So yeah, that's a good one. I think honestly we'll see that full answer this season.
Yeah, of course, I have such a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to Embiid because
Yeah.
I believe he caught no he cost us our center. Cause that play he did against
Oh yeah, yeah,
Jimmy
yeah.
Garoppolo, like I listen, to each his own. You can like who you want to like, you can respect their game or whatever, but when you intentionally do something that's dirty, it's not even borderline, it was a dirty play.
Mhm.
I can't look at you with that same respect of yo, you just play head up and all right, you're the better man. Like, cause yeah, so Embiid, I just feel like when it comes to Embiid with that with his stature, he should. I'm not gonna be like Charles Barkley and say, yeah, stay, get your butt in the paint, but he, especially now, like you said, with Paul George being there and Maxi, you're gonna have more than enough people on the perimeter. If you want to
Mhm.
keep that space, and you have to man that paint.
Yeah.
You have to man that paint. On occasion, yeah, you can float out to the 3-point line, but we don't. They shouldn't need him to be a 3-point shooter. Man that paint,
Yeah.
and which go and control it from there. He's a great passer. Control it from there, and hopefully, y'all do great, just not against us.
Yeah. Right, 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 right. I think because, like you said, man, you got Maxi now, Paul George. I think even Kelly Oubre has had moments the last couple years. He's almost getting 20 a game. You got Caleb Martin now who can stretch the floor. Like that's likely going to be the starting lineup. So let them W in the paint and kicking out to one of those guys. It can be simple. It can be simple.
I think they even got Eric Gordon,
Eric Gordon. Yep, Eric Gordon. So
which
yeah, he shouldn't be sitting out there as much.
I was out going back to your starting five. I was really contemplating Draymond, but then I had to take account of the lack of height that I had going into that last pick, and I'm like, mm. And but now you say it, I'm like, darn, Draymond could just kind of like unlock Steph also, because that 2-man game between them.
Yeah, they're
But no,
almost like a
I
package
mean,
deal. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I just couldn't do. I was like, no, I gotta get a true center. I gotta get a true center.
Yeah, yeah. And that's how I was feeling too. I'm like, well, even Jimmy Butler, he can get buckets, but I'm like, I need somebody that's gonna match, at least try to match what you got with Tatum and Steph and Ant-Man. So yeah, I have my same struggles with that too. But with John Starks now, you have to pick one hip hop song as a soundtrack for his style of play or his career. What would that song be and why?
Ooh, it's funny. When I was thinking about this episode and thinking about the subject that I was going to choose, because of the era, the '90s, like I first song that came to my mind, and tell you the truth, I was going to wear a bucket hat, and I changed my mind at the last minute. But the first song that came to my mind first group that came to my mind was EPMD.
Mm.
And the first song that came to my mind, even though, matter of fact, yeah, this came out right around the time that he started. he started making a little noise in New York. The Headbanger by
Mm.
EPMD. So yeah, EPMD, yeah, K Solo, yeah, Redman. This was like the quintessential hit squad um posse cut. The only people that was missing was DOS Effects, but they was in the video. Like I loved it because it was it was the most rugged song back then, but it got a lot of airplay back then, if you believe it or not. The
Really?
headbanger, what? The headbanger, what? There's a couple bars by K Solo. Back on the scene is the incredible one man team. When I got mad, I turned green. Like that's John Starks. Like you peed him off. Guess what? Now he's going for the juggler. Plus my favorite rapper. Matter of fact, I'm gonna admit my favorite rapper of all time is Redman.
Nice.
So
Nice.
it encompasses the year '92. That's right when John Stark started getting fully ingrained in the New York Knicks. Um, the song is rough and rugged. My favorite group of all time is EPMD, and just that, like I said, that one bar by K Solo about the incredible one man team. When I get mad, I turn green. Yeah, headbanger,
That's
headbanger.
fire. That's fire. And that's exactly what I'm looking for, man. That's dope. The way you pulled it all together with the other elements, I love that. I love that. For me, I I felt like the first two songs, it was really the first two songs that came to me was either and you mentioned them earlier, Recognized by the Locks.
Okay.
Um and but I felt like I wanted to go a little closer towards John Stark's like prime years, so I thought of Biggie Kicking the Door. I think I'm gonna go with that one.
Ah,
I think
yeah,
I'm
yeah,
gonna go with
yeah,
that
yeah.
one. All right, so I want to let you have the floor to share any final statements on John Starks. But as a lead to that, I just want to ask, what is one thing that you wish my generation knew or understood about him as a player?
I, I'm when it comes to John Starks, even though we've said it, I think we've said it a couple times during this conversation. He was the epitome of work. Well, it doesn't always show up on the stat sheet.
Mm,
Like
mm,
the work that he put in. He was a glue guy. He was a motivational guy. He was a player that gave his all. Whether it ended up roses or not, it didn't matter. You knew when John Starks was on that court, he was going to give you 110%. He was never going to rob you of effort. He was never going to pout because he wasn't getting the ball. Whatever the game plan was, he was going to implement the game plan. He was going to be the team emotional leader. He was going to be that person that the fans will automatically gravitate to because just a few years earlier, he was one of us. He was one of us that
mm,
was looking out there. He was one of us that had those NBA dreams, those hoop dreams, if you will.
mhm.
And for this newer generation, or this current generation, the younger generation, whatever you want to call it, um, to me, he was what everybody should aspire to, like to actually try to live out your dreams, whatever they may be, to the fullest, and don't allow people to persuade you or dissuade you from your goal. Sometimes it takes hard work. It takes two, three, four cracks at uh two, three, four attempts before you even get noticed. I mean, just in this realm that we are in now, content creation or what have you. I really don't like that word, but
The same.
just dealing with our podcasts and YouTube shows and everything. I've been I've been I've been podcasting slash YouTube whatever for 5 years, and
Mm.
there's plenty of times that I feel like I'm hitting my head against the wall, and it's like, darn, I don't even know what I do it for. And then the words of my late bro always resonate in my mind of What did you say you was doing it for? You felt like you wanted to put a voice out there. You wanted to have your opinions out there. Has that changed? You still want to put your opinions out there, right? Like when you have 4 listeners, did you care? No. So that inner joy, that inner motivation is all you need. Is all you should aspire to be. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But as long as you're giving your 110%, then let the card fall where they may. And that's what I believe John Starks did. I mean, he had a 12-year career. You couldn't tell him when he was coming out of Tulsa or Oklahoma, wherever he's from, that he could look forward and talk about, yeah, I'm going to have a 12-year career in the NBA. I'm going to be the king of New York anytime I come into MSG
Mm,
on Alumni Row,
talk about
that
it.
I'm gonna have pretty much I don't have to pay for anything in the city. And I don't even have a ring. But because of my heart, because of my just just my tenacity, just because of how I moved in this city, can never be forgotten. One of these days the three will be raised. You know, um, go and figure. Josh Hart, guess what number he wears? Number 3.
Right.
Rest my case.
Very well said. Very well said, though. And I think even you were kind of saying it without saying it, right? Like, even if to specifically like young basketball players, like, and I think I heard PJ Tucker was saying this too, like, you got to be ready to like play a role. Like, you might not touch the basketball all game, but they want you in to guard the opposing team's best player that final minute, and you got to be ready to shoot it. Like, that's the kind of thing. I think same thing with John Starks, right? Like, not always the 20. He wasn't going to always get you 20, right? He might have that one game where he erupts and, it looks good, but on the average day, maybe about 12 points, but he did a heck of a job on Reggie Miller, or he did a heck of a job on Michael Jordan. And maybe they lost, but you know what? Mike didn't play as well as he did. If I do that again, maybe we win. That kind of thing. It's the theme of persistence. It's the theme of perseverance. And I think I'm not even going to say anymore. You really put that together, Mike. I really was inspired by that, and I think that's something that my generation really needs to hear, something like that.
Thank you, thank you. No, I appreciate that. Because not to pull back the curtain too much, but I'm a father of 4. I have 4 grandchildren, ranging from 8 to 8, 5, and my 2 granddaughters. They'll be 3 this month, and my oldest, he would be 29 on the 27th of this month. And I have a 26-year old, a 24-year old, oops, a 24-year old, and a soon to be 18-year-old. And those are the things that I try to instill in my children, that all because nothing comes up overnight. Nothing is given to you. You have to put that positive energy out there. You have
Hmm.
to you have to try. And if you don't try, then there's no result because you didn't even attempt. But if you try and it doesn't work out, okay, fine. But nobody can ever take anything away from you as long as you know that you tried your best. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it don't. My wife is probably, I want to say, probably one of the most loving and giving human beings that I know. And I learn from her every day because she's so selfless, and sometimes we kind of balance each other out. Sometimes I feel kind of messed up because I'm like, babe, everybody ain't your friend. You gotta. But it's just her given nature, and then sometimes just seeing her being so loving and caring softens my exterior at times. I'm like, you know what, darn, that's my babe. I love her so yeah. I don't know why I got on that tangent, but yeah, which got it really, I believe that if the world, or this generation that's behind me, I should say, because listen, I'm 47. The generation that's behind me, if we just learn how to um really just work and really put, matter of fact, put in the work. I won't even say work, just put in the work. you'll see the fruits of your labor. Eventually, a tree doesn't grow overnight. You gotta sprinkle, you gotta water it, you gotta nurture it. And then, it'll blossom. It'll blossom when it's time for it to blossom.
Yeah. Like they say, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success, so I think that
I agree with that.
yeah, I think that's what it is. And again, like you said, it still points to John Starks and who he was as a player, being a persistent guy to even come in the league from the CBA, this close to being out the league, and then he has this, like you said, 12-year career, probably 8 of those years he scored double digits, and he's a legend in New York. All of that is because of how he approached his job day in and day out, and he took pride in his role, was a faithful steward the whole way, and look where that had him. And lastly, Mike, with the last question, it's been a little minute since I asked this question, since I had this kind of episode, but real ones know I need your 5x5. All right. Because this is hip to the games, we need to hear your 5 favorite basketball players all time and your 5 favorite rappers. And like I said, this is favorites. This don't have to be this pressure top 5 type deal. Like, no, your favorites, no matter who it is.
Okay. Um, I'll go with basketball first.
Okay.
I'll say John Starks.
Uh-huh.
Not in no particular order, but John Starks, Carmelo Anthony.
Uh-huh.
Um, mm, this is a good one. This is really a good one. Steph Curry.
Nice.
Um, that's three. I will. This one is surprise you, and I'm gonna do a specific era of player. UNLV slash early Charlotte Hornets, Larry Johnson.
Ooh. Expand, expand, expand.
Okay, UNLV, Larry Johnson, grandmama. For those who don't know,
Uh-huh.
um, when he was in college, he was a man amongst boys. Like it was him, Greg Anthony. I think they had Stacey Augman back in the day. LJ was like the total package. He could take you down low. He could take you off the dribble. He could shoot the three. When he got to the league, it was him and Alonzo Mourning, and you couldn't tell me they wasn't destined for championships. Unfortunately, I don't believe LJ ever got a championship. Alonzo
Yeah.
Mourning
And
got one years later.
I was about to say those Hornets teams, they really only had that like one good 92-93 run, I think it was, and that was kind of it.
Yeah, I mean they had Kendall Gill, they had Muggsy Bogues, they had Dell Curry, the father of Steph Curry. They had a squad, but I probably was coaching. But he was such a dominant force, and unfortunately, I think a back injury took a lot of his explosiveness away. So when he came to the Knicks, I won't say he was a shell of his former self, but he wasn't the explosive Larry Johnson, but he still had all the intangibles. He could still rev it up once in a blue. So just just he was a phenomenon. He was coming out of college. There was like maybe 4 players in the 90s that was coming out of college that you just knew he was the guy. LJ was one. Chris Webber, when he came out, was
Hmm.
another one. Tell you the truth, shoot, that might be my number 4, Chris Webber, because Chris Webber, I loved Chris Webber from the Fab Five. Um, when he got to the league, that one year he stayed in Golden State. I really wish he would have just stayed in Golden State, but he ended up in Sacramento and had a great career there. But yeah, Larry Johnson was a beast. I can't even do him justice.
Mm.
But yeah, he was easy 25 and almost 10 a game. Like he was, I mean, shoot, Jerry Tarkanian. I don't know how he got. I have a pretty good idea how he got a lot of the players on that team, but that's neither here nor there. He was. I think he was spraying NIL money back in the day before there was NIL money.
Definitely, definitely
But yeah,
some of that
No,
going on.
LJ was LJ. I'm trying to think. Is there a comparison to
Well, I was gonna
anybody
say
now?
Zion.
Yes,
Zion.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. Zion was LJ back in the
yeah,
90s.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
perfect comparison. Yes, 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 yes.
Yeah. I can
So
see it.
so
So
I got
is that it? Is that Steph, Starks, Melo? LJ and C Web.
Yep, yep. That's my five.
Yeah.
That's my five. Um, Now as for rappers, Redman, I already spoke about.
Uh-huh.
Biggie, of course. Eminem, even though I have not heard his newest one, uh, I, I, I gotta get to that. But Eminem, um, and I'm gonna cheat because I'm gonna put two groups: EPMD
Uh-huh.
and Tribe Called Quest.
Mm.
Yeah.
It,
So
it's it's
yeah,
it's
I
a
had
fair balance. You know, you got three solo, two groups. I can dig it. I can dig
to.
it.
People would probably think like, hold on, you don't put Nas? Yeah, listen, Nas is you put
It's
Jay
too much
Z.
hip hop. It's too much hip hop out there for us to pick the same people.
See, Jay, and I'll keep this very, very short. Jay is a complicated person for me to pick because of things outside of hip hop
Mm.
that's affected. That's yeah. Matter of fact, I'll say affected me as a Brooklynite. So I can't. Over the years, I can't really rock with Jay how I might have done 15 years ago. Because the whole Brooklyn net debacle. A lot of times, I used to call the Brooklyn Nets the gentrification Nets, and Jay Z has a lot to do with why I called him that. So I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, like you said, this 50 years of hip hop. So listen, those are ones that I could put on right now, and I could listen to front and back the majority of the albums, if not all the albums. I could listen to front and back. So yeah, I cheated with the two groups, but listen, I'm
Hey,
sorry.
there's a first time for everything. And there's a first time for everything. You made H2DG history. Nobody has two groups in their in their 5x5. Oh, Mike, thank you so much for your time, man, and bringing your passionate fandom to H2DG and reminding us all why we had to be there to see John Starks. It's greatly appreciated, and you know, and myself and our listener here would definitely love to have you back in some way, shape, or form. But before you go, please let our listener here know how they can follow you and how they can support all that you're doing. You know, because I know you hit to the games, Mike. You know, not only do you talk sports, you know, obviously the Knicks, but I know you got some mixtapes, some albums sitting in there too. Yeah,
Yeah.
so talk about everything.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I'm like I said at the very beginning, and even more so now at the end of this conversation. I truly, truly appreciate and honored that you brought me onto your show, onto your platform. Had a great conversation. It's it was just it's like I can't even describe how much I actually feel inside. I'm a very sensitive person. People don't probably don't realize it from the boisterous exterior, but I'm a very sensitive person when it comes to stuff like this. So I'm truly appreciative. Um, well, on the social medias, even though I really don't. Okay, matter of fact, I'll just put the social medias out there. On Twitter/X, at Mike Steffens double underscore. Instagram, you probably see me a little bit more active, and I'm at Mike double underscore Steph STEPH. And then on TikTok, which is actually surprisingly, I'm actually more active on there than anything. It's at Mike Steph single underscore. So and of course, matter of fact, I'll even put I'll even put the Facebook out there. I'm Mike Steph. You can follow me. Doesn't really matter, because like it's Facebook. So, now as for my shows, first and foremost, I would go with, since I'm such a magnanimous dude, I will say I am a co-host of HGF Hidden Gems Football, along with my partner in 19 Media Group, co-founder, uh, the Mojo King, and we drop during the NFL football season each and every Thursday. We're starting our preview of the NFL season, going division by division. So there should be one. Be on the lookout. But you know what you can do? You can always go to 19 Media Group YouTube channel, press subscribe, press that like button, press the notification button. And when we drop, if any of us drop, you'll be the first ones to hear it. My solo endeavor, The Salty Thoughts of Mike Steph, featuring the one and only yours truly, Mike Steph. I drop normally each and every late Sunday night, early Monday morning on the YouTube channel of at Mike Steph underscore. That's my platform in which I talk sports, wrestling, music, politics, the whole nine. Pretty much that's why hence the name of it is the Salty Thoughts. I'm not gonna lie, it can be a little blue, it can be a little rowdy, but at the end of the day, I hope y'all know that everything is from my heart and there's no
I was
ill
gonna
will
say it's very
intended.
honest and genuine. It's very honest and
Yes,
genuine.
that's the
Yeah.
best way to put it. And last but not least, I do have a musical project out, a hip hop project out. Um, it's currently on Bandcamp, and you can search under Mike Steph. It's the Trials and Tribulations of Mike Steph. It's a 4-track EP. My first official um, offering, and it's very, very special to me. It's very, very sentimental to me. It's more of an EP that encapsulates a year in the life of Mike Steph. A lot of things I've gone through, a lot of growth. Um, one of your former guests on this show. Actually, I got introduced to them on this show, MC Mills.
Oh, yes. Yes.
The great MC Mills. In the 2022, I had a health scare. I'll just leave it at that.
Mhm.
And around that time, she had put up a post. I forgot on what platform, but she had put up a post and about being comfortable with being uncomfortable. You
Mhm.
have to learn how to be comfortable with feeling uncomfortable in multiple ways. And that spoke to me. Once again, that's another person that is wise beyond their years.
Yeah.
And
Shout out
I
Mills.
took that at it hit me on multiple levels, especially what I was going through at the time. And that's been my motto, but especially was my motto for last year. So the trials and tribulations of Mike Steph EP kind of encapsulate exactly what I was going through, my growth in that year, dealing with family losses, friend losses, and just a whole different growth as a person. Because the Mike Steph that is here now isn't the Mike Steph that you might have known about 19 months ago. I've
Mm.
I'm I'm happy in the skin that I'm in. Hence why I don't go with moniker anymore. Like what you see is what you get. That's me. So yeah, those are pretty much everything. Now some people are like, are you coming out with another project? Probably not, because I want that to stand on its own because it's so sentimental. I don't even want to say, yeah, I'm putting something out. I want it to just stand on its own. Where I put a freestyle here or there. He told you, yeah, I'm an Instagram freestyler. Maybe I'll put something out there, but yeah, as for official offerings, no, that's gonna be one and only. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm like I really enjoyed this. I really enjoyed this. And hopefully we will do this again. Definitely, definitely.
Yeah, anytime, man. Anytime. We gotta get on the other side of the spectrum next time. But yeah, always, man, always. I appreciate your kind words and everything. And that's a wrap for this episode of Hip to the Games in the series You Had to Be There, another installment. Giving flowers to John Starks, courtesy of the great Mike Steph, aka Mike Steph Curry, you know what I'm saying? With the John Starks, you know what I'm saying? So we gonna be out. But as always. Thank you for tuning in for the best combo there is. Peace out and God bless. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Hip to the Games. And if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit up the socials at Desmond Powell _ and at Hip to the Games on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok so you don't miss out on the fun. And please follow or subscribe to the show and leave a review on the podcast platform you're on right now, as your support is greatly appreciated.